All right. Good evening. Hello. We still need a name for our tribe here. Business growth community peeps. I mean, I don't know. Hey,
Exactly.
everyone.
We'll
Good
call it
evening.
what is it? The BGC. We'll call it the BGC.
BGC. Maybe so. Really got to put some thought into that. But this week, we are going to be covering what has posted the last 2 weeks for you. So, this week, Leilani, thank you so much for your newsletter about Profit First Mindset. So exciting and a huge step forward in truly growing your business, right? So love that one. And then we're also going to be going over sales. So don't forget, guys, the newsletter comes out every Monday along with a link to our bootcamp training videos that correlate to that newsletter. So don't forget about those. And well, let's get started tonight. So Leilani.
Do it. So guys, if you've gone ahead and watched or joined us on any of the previous Q&As, we really like to start with the cash flow quadrant, which comes from Robert Kiyosaki right down here from Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he was the one who invented this quadrant over here. And what he said is that everyone kind of goes on a journey, or most go on a journey, their financial journey. In this case, it's the business journey. And you typically start as an employee, which means you're working for someone else. Then you go ahead and you move on to self-employed, which means now you are no longer working for another company. You're working for your own company. And typically it's just you that's doing it. Whether, like, for example, working for Uber or working with DoorDash, now a 1099 employee getting paid by a company, and that now transitions to employing yourself. And then typically from this point here, you transition to a business owner. Sometimes you don't. Now, the thing I always get is, well, Leilani, isn't someone who's self-employed a business owner? And the short answer to that is not really, because a business owner has systems in place and operations and SOPs, and they have people working for them where their revenue turning giant is working by itself. So their business is operating by itself without their hands being in it too often. I'm not saying that they completely go away and they're not doing anything in their business, but typically they do not have as much of the operational stuff on their shoulders any longer. They've gone ahead and delegated it out. And then a business owner, their journey wants to go into being an investor. And an investor means that they are diversifying their revenue coming into their pockets, whether that's through a business, real estate investment, stock market. They have diversified the money coming into their ecosystem. And these things are kind of running on their own, and they are just living off the dividends. And this here kind of is just the journey. Now, I do want to say there are caveats to this. Not everyone wants to be at the end an investor. I've met many people who are fine being self-employed, meaning they just wanted to work for themselves. They don't want to have a boss over them. They just want to do their own thing. And I've met many business owners that just wanted to build a company as a lifestyle business, meaning just enough revenue to support the lifestyle that meets their needs. So where you would just really need to look at, where do you want to be? Most want to be here, but not all. And just take a moment and reflect and say, where do you want to be? And wherever you want to be is okay. You do not have to get here to the end goal. But we are Saige consultants, and we like to help and grow and scale for people who want to reach this quadrant over here. And so with that, I go into the next thing that's really important in order to reach that investor role is profit, okay? And prioritizing profits, making profit first. I read a book that was very influential on my journey, and it was called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. And he really just broke down why it's important to make sure you always prioritize paying yourself first prior to expenses. So the typical formula that most people do when they go into business for themselves is they prioritize. Once they get sales, they prioritize their expenses, and then whatever's left over is profit that they take to pay themselves. Or, and I think most people have heard this, is you need to reinvest every dollar you make, especially in the first 2 years. I mean, that is a story that I've heard so many times, is that most companies are not profitable in their first couple of years and they expect to report red to the IRS. Yes and no, and that's something we can always tackle later on. But for the sake of this particular Q&A that we're going through, I just want to talk about how your profit here, what's left over, should not be the afterthought. And this is just a very accurate depiction of what most companies, especially people who are selling commodities or products, they prioritize their inventory expenditures and all their overhead prior to even thinking about profit, or even if anything's left over. So there is a pitfall to having this type of method, okay? First of all, it is a very reactive model. So pretty much you have, let's just say $10,000 in sales coming out. Your typical overhead is around $7,000. So in theory, you have $3,000 in profit, right? The thing, though, that ends up happening is that $3,000 gets eaten up really quickly by little fires that pop up that you have to now put out, right? And that's what the whole being reactive versus proactive. You're just waiting to see what's left over. And then what ends up happening is when you're just waiting to see what's left over, you end up going into survival mode, because you start having a mindset, a scarcity mindset of, well, I got to make sure all of these things are paid first, because if not, the building's going to fall and the other shoe's going to drop and we're going to be stuck in a very pitfall. So your endorphin, adrenaline side kicks on, and now you're stressed out in survival mode trying to run your business. And then the other side of it is you're not guaranteeing your compensation. You're making yourself last, right? We talk about self-care and wanting to make sure you're in the right mindset. Well, putting money in your pocket is going to help ensure that you're kind of keeping yourself in the right mindset. And then the other thing is since you're always prioritizing either reinvesting into your business or taking care of your expenses, you have a very low lack of cash reserves. There's not much put away for savings or investment opportunities. And then on top of that, if you ever have a downturn, if anything happens, because crap happens, right? I mean, they have bumper stickers for the other word of crap to tell you that stuff happens, and that's the only thing we can guarantee you, is that stuff will happen in this business journey. And if you don't have any cash reserves, you're not equipped to handle some of these challenges that come along. So this is really just a few. We can run down the list, and I actually, in my module that I have in our business boot camp, really dive down into this a little bit more. So feel free to take a look at it. But this is the pitfalls of that traditional method of making sure you pay your expenses prior to your profit. So let's talk about reversing this equation. Okay. So the traditional method was you have sales minus your expenses equals profit. So whatever you have left over is what you pay yourself or reinvest it back in the company. Let's reverse that. Let's do revenue or sales minus what you pay yourself first or take for profit of the company. And then whatever's left over, you figure out how to get your expenses to this number here, right? So it does take somewhat of a stringent budget. And no, budget does not mean sacrifice. Budget just means discipline. It does take some discipline to make sure that you make your expenses meet this number. And by doing that, because you're ensuring you're taking profit, you're being proactive. You're thinking of yourself first, self-care, right? You're also putting your company first. The health of your company is put before all the other stuff. And so it's really making sure that the profitability of your company is not just an afterthought, okay? And I really love talking about Parkinson's law. So Parkinson's law goes and says that if there's an empty space, it has to be filled. There's a very more technical, beautiful way of explaining Parkinson's law, but I'm just telling you that if there's an empty space, something needs to fill that hole. Well, if you're talking about money, if you have a plethora of money just sitting around, what will end up happening is it will be spent. Okay. And it will be spent by default, meaning not intentionally created by you, where you want it to go, it will go somewhere else. So beat Parkinson's law. Make sure to take that profit first and be disciplined with budgeting yourself for your expenses. So that way, technically, the money is already spent before it gets here, but it's spent in the areas you want it spent to. And then by doing so, you can ensure the longevity of your business, because if one of those brackets that you're spending your expenses is towards a savings program or creating a safety net, you now can make sure your business is built up with a strong foundation for longevity. And so it's just one of those things that profit first is making sure that you understand why you went into business, because I think sometimes we go in with a very euphoric sense of why we want to start a company. We want to impact, we want to sell all these products, we want time, freedom, flexibility, all of this stuff that we go into with the idea of creating a business. But when you really get down to peel those layers, guys, we're here to make money, right? You're here to pay yourself. We can't live off of air. So you need to make sure you are getting money into your pocket so that way you can create a viable lifestyle for yourself. And the first way to do that is ensure that you are taking profit from the company you have created. So with that said, I want to hand it over to Kristen, who did the other newsletter where she really went into some really great tips and tricks and stuff. And so my friend, go ahead, go on and take.
I was just thinking as I was listening to this all coming together, how awesome it was to pair a profit first mentality with also focusing on how to really drive sales in your business. I mean, because the more sales you drive, the more profit you're able to keep for yourself and invest into your business as well. So isn't it interesting how this all aligned so perfectly without us even really trying? I just think that's great. So we've used this tablet before where we really review what Jay Abrams has really put out there for all businesses to understand, that there truly are 3 ways that you can grow your business. So your goal is to increase sales so that you can keep more profit for yourself and do more with your business. Well, you've kind of got 3 venues you can go down. You can either figure out how to get more customers into your business, or you can generate even higher sales, which doesn't necessarily mean raising prices. It could just mean setting up a way that they would want to add on additional items. And then the third way would be increase the frequency or the amount of times that your customer feels that they need to or want to, shop or buy from you again. And typically most businesses find a sweet spot in combining 2 of these together. So how do I get new foot traffic into my store and increase my sales? Or how do I increase my sales and how often my customer needs to come back? A lot of that depends on what it is that you offer, but this is a business principle 101. And this is how you are going to be able to increase those profits that you want to keep and that you deserve to keep for yourself. So let's move on to the next slide. I think we all could agree, we just talked about in Leilani's, there are expenses in running a business. Running a business is very expensive, but one of the things that can boost your business the most is actually 100% free. And that is the experience that you give each customer. So many times I run into businesses that are so concerned about being able to give their customers something else. So that means they have to add it to their budget so they could afford a special type of packaging or, something extra. And you don't need to. Those become nice to-dos, but they don't necessarily make or break a customer deciding that they want to come back and shop from you or stay loyal to your brand. What impacts that the most is actually how you make your customer feel. And if you don't believe this yet, stay with us for the journey because this really is what unlocks future business success for you. So if we could go to the next slide here. I feel like it's very important, and wasn't actually in my initial presentation if you watched the boot camp video, but the concept is in there. We've said this over and over again. What you sell is not necessarily what you offer. And what you as a business owner want to get to a point of is being able to articulate what it is that you offer to your customer. The more you bog him or her down with what the nuances of what you offer and the technical part of what you offer, they're just hearing want, want, like the Charlie Brown. Where you capture somebody is when you connect to something that pulls at a problem they're having or something that's very important to them, either socially or environmentally or spiritually. If there's just something that really tugs at them and they realize that there's a hole in their, I guess, existence that needs to be filled by something your business offers, that's when your business becomes more attractive to potential customers. And this is something that, you know, when we were first launching Saige and I was trying to figure out how to get our name out there, I had joined various actual Facebook groups, and there were challenges on various days, like in 3 words or less, tell us what you offer your customers. And I always found those to be a little frustrating because I can't in 3 words. I have to describe everything that Saige does for customers. But in reality, that's not what they were asking of us. They were asking us to be able to quickly articulate something that will capture your audience, your tagline in a way, almost. And when you can articulate that with confidence and then turn into an amazing experience for your customer, that's the sweet spot right there. And that's how you build the frequency of your customer wanting to come back because of how you make them feel and that hole that you fill, that gap that's in their existence, if you will. So I would challenge you today, you know, think about not what you sell, but what you offer to your guests. And can you get it into 5 words or less? Can you get it into 3 words or less? I think, Leilani, you and I actually both have a challenge to get this into 3 words or less for Saige. I feel like we've got it into 5, but how could we even get it down into 3? I think it's something we should work on ourselves. And then just really remember that when you focus on the quality of what you give your customer and what your true why is, it will resonate and they will stay loyal to you and come back. And they will probably tell their friends and family and neighbors and community about you. And that naturally will turn into additional foot traffic for you too. So
I love that. I love
right?
it. I am so inspired. I am so honored to have you as my business partner. You're just so incredible. Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. So this is the part of these that I think we all really look forward to. And sometimes these questions come in pretty last minute. I know Leilani, you and I were like, oh, here we go. So
I have a lot of fun with these. This is like one of the things that I look forward to every 2 weeks when we get up and just talk about these questions and dialogue back and forth. I love it.
I 10,000% agree. So let's get started. And I think we started with the profit question. So go ahead, Leilani.
Okay. So the first question we have from one of our subscribers is, I just can't find a way to pay myself yet. Any suggestions? And I giggle because, I mean, this is the biggest, or I should say most frequent issue that I come across when people have just started their business, or, you know, they're working a full-time job and then they have a business side hustle and they're just like, well, our business isn't profitable yet, we can't pay ourselves. And I am guilty of it, guys. This question echoes, I think, what I asked myself while reading the book. And there is something to be said about when you prioritize yourself first. Okay. It's like you're putting the message out there that you're not willing to accept less. Okay. And as hard as it can feel in the moment, especially that we tend to create businesses and create expenses at the same time, because there's just so many things out there that feel like they help us, right? I want to dare you to take a different approach on how you look at your expenses. I want you to see how the revenue that's coming in. I want you to look at your expenses and then really look down into those expenses and kind of say, which one of these are really a priority. Previous videos I've done, I've said, categorize your things in 3 different buckets, if you will. You have the bare bones necessity needed to make your business run. Without it, like email, or if you're paying a subscription for email, you will not have a company because you need your customers to get a hold of you, especially if you're e-com. Okay. If you're doing stuff e-com retail, you need an email address. What I'm going with that is there are different subscriptions and different tiers of subscriptions. So take a look at the tiers of things you're paying for. And if you're paying for the top tier, go for the lower tier. All right. What is the bare necessity you need in order for your business to run? And then kind of categorizing. So if you have things that are luxuries, meaning that you don't necessarily need it and the company will run fine, then that's a luxury item. If you need it, however, there are ways you can maneuver around it, then that becomes a tier 2 or bucket B type of thing where it's nice to have. And then there's the bare bones thing you need, right? In your budgeting, the operational stuff. That becomes almost like, highlight in every single color type of item on your budget that you need to have there. In that case, those have to be there. They cannot move. And I'm pretty sure if you were to extract your expenses from the luxury to nice to have to the bare bones, you're going to end up finding out that if you get down to just bare bones itself, and maybe it might take some operational changes on your end, you will find a way to squeeze out a few dollars from there to pay yourself. Now, the other caveat or the other issue I get from people is, yeah, but I'm only left with $10 a month to pay myself. We'll do it. Start somewhere. Even if it's just 10%, 5%, 2% of your revenue, start somewhere. There's no better feeling of being able to take money from the sales of your blood, sweat, and tears and deposit it into your own personal account and buy yourself a cup of coffee, or go get yourself a hamburger, or take your family out to dinner, and it was paid by your creative ideas that have been formed into a business. So yes, you can. You can find a way for you to pay yourself yet. Now, the other question I get is, but I haven't earned any money yet in my business. Okay, well, we technically don't have a business yet. You have a charity. Okay, and that's something that's very hard for people to hear. If you haven't made any money in your business, but you have been working and servicing people, or even yourself, you're not running a business yet until money has been exchanged. You are running a charity, and that's okay. There's been a lot of 501c charities that have been created that turn into multi-billion-dollar corporations. You have to start somewhere. But when you do start earning a revenue coming into your door, part of it has to go to you. All right, I'll give you a prime example. Here in Saige, we worked a long time not making any money. We were paying for different subscriptions and stuff we needed that were bare essentials to run Saige, okay? So at that moment in time, we were running a charity. However, once we started taking profit, a very small percentage of it went back to us. You can do the same. Kristen?
I was going to say, I feel like so many of the books that we have read echo exactly what you're saying. I think about even the financial concepts in Richest Man in Babylon, that a tenth of everything you earn is yours to keep, and that, and then just the examples of how is it that people can have the exact same lifestyle situation. You and I both have 2 kids, right? We both are married. We have 2 cars. We have a mortgage. We both have pets, so people are able to live within different, I guess, financial structures based on decisions that they choose to make. So, yeah. And I think that's just a lesson to be learned. I can guarantee you there is somebody out there that has tightened the reins and gotten rid of those nice to-dos and just buckled down on the priority things for a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've done it in business is a roller coaster. You have your highs and your lows, right? And so in your lows, knowing where your budget place, your necessary, nice to have, and luxury items, already having that mapped out. So when times come down, when you're on a downward slope, you know what you can cut first, right?
Absolutely.
So that's just part of that. But I love how you talked about that, Kristen, about the lifestyle. Everyone has a different lifestyle that they lead. Everyone has different things that they need. Like I have come across plenty of people who have started a business, and again, technically a business isn't a business until you have an exchange of money, right? Just because you went and filed yourself in Florida Sunbiz and decided to go ahead and open up your corporation, you're technically not a business owner or a business yet. Legally, yes, right? Metaphysically, maybe not, but I just want to say that I've met a lot of people who have opened up businesses to do something that feeds their soul. And at that moment, sometimes that doesn't come with an exchange of cash, of money. It comes in with a different energy exchange.
Yeah.
That's not a currency. And so just to put it out there too, your profit can come in different currencies. But in this particular case, we are talking about, let's be realistic, we're talking about finances in the physical currency.
Sure.
Okay.
Love that. All right. What's the next one?
The next one is, if I don't have a steady stream of income from my business yet, should I still set up paying myself first? Yes, absolutely, 100%. If you went to the farmer's market and you sold your cookies for $10 and you have decided that 10% of that is going to be your earnings, right away, get that dollar put in your pocket. Of course, you need to document it, and it needs to be, all of the budgeting, financial stuff that I talk about in modules, you still need to record it. However, I think a really good place to start off with, if you are trying to get into a habit of paying yourself first, 5 to 10%. Start with 5 to 10%. Whatever it is that you sold, 5 to 10% of that shall go to you. And what that's also going to ensure is that you have not built up your expenses to equal 90 or 95% of the product that you sold. Okay. Yep. Because that's another hiccup that I see along the way, is that someone will sell something for $10 and $9 of it is expenses, which leaves only $1 left for anything. So you will find a way to widen that gap. So starting with 5 to 10% is a good foundational number.
Sure.
So yes, you don't need a steady income. I didn't have a steady income. Kristen didn't have a steady income when we started the journey. So yeah, but whatever we did get in needed to be allocated accurately. Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the rest of the fundamentals in this we discussed with the previous question. They almost echo each other, but I get it. Like sometimes we have that mindset, well, nothing is steady yet. But honestly, I think as a business is just getting started, it's not going to be steady at first, So if you're waiting until what you define as steady, you could be years in before it's what you define as steady.
One of the things that happened to me and B Chic when we first started, none of it was steady. But every time it was almost like, I like to compare it to real estate agents, right? A real estate agent will go and sell a house, and then they get their commission at 3% in, and their 3% could be, $10, $12, $20,000. They're like, woohoo, hit the lottery. But that has to last for so many months until or whenever they sell their next house, and there's no guarantee when that's going to happen. So it makes it very hard to create a budget around ups and downs and no guarantee of when the next sale will happen. But that's why having your budget, knowing your expenses, will put it in the forefront and make you acknowledge what you have to have paid. But you will also be able to plan accordingly to make sure you have that safety net on the side. So if you don't have a steady income, still setting it up to pay yourself, and that money that you've paid yourself, from there you take a little bit more and you throw it into a savings account as an emergency fund to wade through the length of time until another sale comes, because a business is a lot like that. It's very seldom first starting out that you get steady income. That's why, I see these things on YouTube. Like, oh, I did 100,000. I got to $100,000 in sales in 3 months. Great. You hit it one time. Did you keep it? Because that's the next question. And that's
Yeah.
something that I find a lot of people go through is it's easy to get up and make a large sum of money rather quickly, but maintaining it is the next obstacle. And it makes it hard to plan your finances if you have this
The roller coaster.
going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's go on to the next one.
All right. So this is, I'm scared. Oh, this one echoes in my heart. I'm scared to not have every possible option for a sale. How can I focus on my ideal customer and still stay in business? Oh my gosh, I feel you so much with this, because I remember when we were reading Pumpkin Plan for our podcast. And when I first started reading the book, I think I even said in the first episode, I was going to be ready for a fight, because it talks about really weeding out, and attracting your ideal customer. Now, this isn't, please, this is not to say that if somebody walks into your brick and mortar and wants to buy something, let's just say your brick and mortar is a woman's dress shop, right? And your ideal customer is a woman in her 20s who wants to buy these fashionable dresses. And in walks a guy and he wants to buy one of your dresses. That doesn't mean you don't sell to him, but this is coming out of how do you focus on going after your core customer, and don't be afraid about niching down. And this is something we even needed to learn with Saige and our podcast, which is now called Saige Unplugged, is we had to really decide who our customer is so that we could better reach you. It wasn't about going after every single business across multiple ages necessarily. It was really trying to reach who we felt we would resonate with and would resonate with us, and going after that. So don't be scared about formulating your business to go after who you feel your ideal customers, especially if your why resonates with a specific market of customers. You got to figure there's 8 billion people, maybe more. I don't know. I should find out. Maybe we're up to 9 billion. Who knows? But there's like billions of people in the world, and break down your budget. You only probably need a couple hundred of them within a certain cycle for you to achieve what you need. So instead of like throwing this massive net out and hope somebody listens, why don't you focus in on where your customers truly are and ask them to come in and build your business for them? Now, I talked about Pumpkin Plan, and it does talk about divorcing certain customers, and then that kind of refers to those customers that you maybe in the end are paying more to have than they are paying you to have your business. Those problem customers, those customers that seem to finagle every possible discount and free item, or, in Pumpkin Plan, he had to drive like 3 or 4 hours to plug a mouse in for somebody, so what he could charge them to plug this mouse into their computer versus his gas and mileage and time alone. So there's 2 different ways to look at this. So I hope I've answered your question in this. No one ever is going to tell you not to take a sale from somebody who's ordered from your website or walked into your building, but it's really going after how are you fine-tuning your business model to really resonate with your core customer, and then that's echoed in your branding and your marketing and so on. Leilani, you had quite a journey with Be Chic, actually learning who was actually buying from you.
Well, and I think this. So my journey is one of not really knowing who the customer was. Who I thought they were was a different demographic than who they actually were. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I have to pivot. So if my core customer is not the age group or the geolocation that I thought they were in, well, I need to pivot to who is attracted to my particular product. So, and then the other thing was I was one of those that threw everything at the wall to see what stuck. I was one of the ones that wanted every possible option for a sale. And what I ended up doing is having an overinflated inventory of products that only sold moderately, and losing money on stagnant inventory. So yeah, you don't need to have every possible option. You just need to have a few really good options that become your flagship product or service that you're offering that will attract your tribe into your ecosystem, where then they can purchase the other products you already have available without trying to meet their demands. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah,
I think
that was perfect.
yeah, I think sometimes we get so caught up on trying to meet the demands of all of our customers, and you can't. You end up burning the candle at both ends, and it doesn't work out. So find your flagship product. You might have to throw some stuff to the wall and find out which one's your flagship product for a while, but then afterwards you can start niching down. Once you find out what your flagship products are, you niche down from there, and then you go broad. But everything is a derivative from your flagship product.
100%. And I love that you gave the example too of when you tried to go too broad for your customers, you were losing money.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because you had to have inventory that you thought met the needs of this customer. And then you also wanted this customer and this customer. And
I think
that was important, I think, to share, and something for you to think about as business owners.
I think most business owners, all of us, are internally optimistic. And I think it's in our nature, because if we weren't optimistic, we wouldn't have gone through the risk of going into business for ourselves, right? So being internally optimistic means that when a few people come to you, if one person comes to you, cool. If two people come to you, you're considering it. If three people come to you with the same exact idea, now you're thinking it's a trend. But the reality of it is, all it was three people who were interested in a particular product. That doesn't mean it's a trend. And so you will end up investing all of this money. And I'm talking about, when I say you will, I'm talking to myself. Go invest all this money into a product thinking you have the next trendy item, when in reality, all you had was three interested parties.
Yeah.
And so you sold three products, and then the other 280 of them are still on the shelf. So I'm just trying to give you an idea of how stagnant inventory comes into play, is because you think you've fallen on the next thing. And some people get lucky. You hear the success stories. And like I said, we're internally optimistic. So we think, yeah, it's going to be the next thing. We're going to get another $180,000 sale from this, but you end up sitting on product.
Well, I feel like you just described the Jekyll and Hyde of the two books we've just recently done, the 4-Hour Work Week, where he really helps you figure out how to automate things, but recommends a very careful and purposeful kind of growth strategy where, you don't sell 5 or 6 of them and then buy 2 million of them to, it's working in chunks. But then you also have tipping point. So at what point has something in your business latched on and about to spread, almost like, what does Malcolm call it? Like a pandemic, right? So, but there are more factors in than it just selling 3 times, right? There's a
lot more factors into it. And I think I like how you brought up the very broad spectrum of things. In the 4-Hour Work Week, he's very strategic about how to execute bringing on new products in, right? And in Tipping Point, he's telling you how to make things go viral. One of the things that I've done in Be Chic is learning from past and previous experiences. What I did is I started to utilize buyer feedback. So for example, if I had a particular product, one of the flagship products that was doing well, I would bring on maybe some similar alternatives to it. Okay. And then wait to see the feedback. I wouldn't buy a ton. I'd pay more to buy a smaller amount of them, test the waters, see the rate of sale, because that was the other thing. You can sell, but if it takes you 2 years to sell out of a product, that's a very slow rate of sale.
Profit,
no profit. You want a quicker sale. So I would figure out how fast I wanted something to sell. And if it met that, then I would go and buy some more. And another larger investment, and then another larger investment if it did well, and to the point where it needed to go. And I like the rule of 3. I tend to do that. If it did well, 3 different buys, my 4th buy would be the largest that I'm making sure I'm sitting on inventory for at least a year. But it's very strategic in the way you have to execute it.
Love that.
And it takes longer. And that's another thing, guys, business owners, you have to be patient. All right, let's go on to the next question.
All right. The quality of work that I provide has been how I get additional customers, but it affects my ability to follow up with future customers quickly. Could this be a problem? Yes. No doubt at all about this. Here's the thing. To build a business, you need either a steady stream of more and more customers coming in, or to repeat the frequency, or to raise your prices. So kudos to you for giving the best customer experience in the whole world, right? You are just so caught up in what you do and how you treat your customers and making that particular customer feel like VIP. That's amazing. But if you are letting your future customers fall to the wayside, you risk them giving up and going with somebody else. You risk them getting into their head that you are maybe not dependable, which is going to put a different type of microscope on your business than you want. Believe me, if people are worried about your dependability and your professionalism, they are going to nitpick everything you do in their interaction with you. So I would say in this circumstance, again, do not let go of how you treat these customers. Like, that's amazing. I'm so glad that that's on the forefront of your mind. But I feel like this is almost like from E-Myth. Sarah just got the pie shop owner from the book E-Myth. She's just so caught up with what she's doing that some of the other details and nuances were slowly falling apart to the point where the business was running her versus her running her business. So systems and time blocking and organization will help you continue to give that incredible service to your customers, but also make sure that you have a system for follow-up. And I mean, we even read in 4-Hour Workweek, it's fine to have on your auto email responder, or even you can use this in social media. If people are reaching out to you in social media, you can have an auto responder that says, I'm with my current client right now, but I'm looking forward to connecting with you. I will follow up within 24 hours or within, whatever it is, and giving your customer a commitment as to when. But if you don't time block and give yourself time to follow up and nurture your future customers, you will eventually fizzle down and die, because your future customers are just as important as the ones right in front of you. Absolutely. So yes, that's a very, very big problem. And it's something I would encourage you to course correct. And I mean, I know several people in this community that are actually service-based. So I understand, once you walk into your customer's business or home, depending on what service you're offering them, I get it. Your phone goes into your work bag and you are 10,000% in the moment, which is great. So you may need to adjust your morning routine a little. Maybe you need to wake up a little earlier and check those emails and voicemails and follow up. Maybe it's time to outsource and get a virtual assistant that can begin to answer and source these things for you and prep. I know, Leilani, you'll be able to dig in a little more about that, and then your evening routine, when you do get home from work, you don't clock out when you leave your customer's house. You maybe need to have in your mind so that you clock out after you spend 15 minutes following up on emails and voicemails when you get home at night. And it just needs to be part of your time blocking, because those future customers, they need to be a priority too. So, but what do you have to say on this, my friend?
I think you really covered it. I think, when you bring on highly profitable customers, you kind of want to just focus all your energy on them because they're paying your bills, right? And if you're paying yourself first, they're paying you too. The issue comes at hand is you can have a great catalog or Rolodex of customers that you're servicing at the moment, but you will either stay at your current level of business and not scale, or more than likely you will decline, right? Because new growth happens when you're bringing on new customers, and new customers will actually replace the old ones that do eventually leave, right? So Future customers are absolutely important. And I like what Kristen talked about time blocking. I'm just going to add another layer to that is energy levels, right? I think a prime example myself, my energy levels towards around 4 o'clock is not the best. I try not to plan things that are going to require heavy mental strategic thinking around those periods of time, because I know I do not work my best at that period of time. So if you're thinking of time blocking, think of your energy levels. If you work best in the morning, then maybe following up or contacting future customers or strategically planning when you can get do dealings with them in the morning would be best for you. And then following up with your existing customers in the afternoon, which doesn't really typically take a lot of time. They're already your customer. You've already closed the deal, right? You're just now doing customer service and making sure their experience is nice. Following them up in the afternoon and making phone calls with them then or whatever. I think the other challenge that happens is typically closing a deal is high energy, right? And then when you get out that adrenaline rush, you kind of go on a down. And you just, like Kristen said, you just want to throw your phone in the bag and say, I did it, good for me, I'm clocking out. But what ends up happening is there is a whole onboarding process, follow-up process, emailing, phone calls, just kind of giving that 100% you're looking for that has to happen. So with this said, I'm actually going to propose something, and it was something I learned a while ago, which is the 10-80-10 rule, which is kind of like a sandwiching of work that you do, right? So you give 10% in the beginning, which is your face, your time, your talk, you're talking to them, you're calling them, they're hearing from you, you're even meeting them at their house, and then 80% of that is handed off to someone else. And that's where it's a really good thing to have a VA or just some sort of part-time assistant who can help with all of that administrative follow-up onboarding work for your customer. And then after they've done all that, you get back on the phone for another 10 minutes or 10% of just giving them that extra experience that you're really looking for, but you hand it off 80% of the work to someone else. A VA is a good way to do it. If you want to hear more about it, Saige Unplugged, we went into depth about it with 4-Hour Workweek, like Kristen talked about. Yeah. But I'm just trying to throw out ideas of how to use your energy levels and time blocking to be most effective for yourself, and then how to learn to delegate and release so that way you are still giving the same experience to your customers, especially if you're service-based. However, the majority of the grunt work is not being done by you, so you can stay at your optimus. Optimus, I like that word. Optimal. Yes. I said Optimus, like Optimus Prime.
These are really, really great questions. And I guess like there was a lot of layers into them and understanding. So thank you. This really rich. I like you. I look forward to these each time. Yeah, we need to find a way to extract just the question and the answer portion to make it quick little snippets. I'll have to talk to Kev about that in editing and see what we can do in the future for that, because I think that could be really rich as well. So
too. And you see 10-80-10. So Kristen just said it. 10%. She's going to hand it off to someone else, and then she's going to review the other 10%.
Yes. So guys, this was great. Love this week. You want to go to the next slide, my friend? Just remember, you are part of this business growth community. You're getting access to these videos and all of this because you joined our community, and we're so excited to have you. Thank you. Don't forget, we do these twice a month. For the most part, it's turning into every other Wednesday. As we come into the holiday season, we're going to try to be really cognizant of holiday weeks, because we realize time with your family and friends or in a very busy business could be super hectic. So don't be surprised if maybe it's 2 weeks in between one instead of one. We will keep you posted. But we also have this community for mindset development for you. So, if there's more that we can do to offer you, please DM us or email us of ideas around that. But you will also continue to get that newsletter every Monday where we're digging into business acumen and understanding and development for you as a business owner, because when you grow yourself personally, that's how you're going to be able to grow your business. And then, of course, what an incredible network. And look for more to come over the next few weeks, where we are actually going to be highlighting some of these successful partners that we've brought into the community that are certainly there for you to help with your growth and things that you need within your business. I'm so looking forward to how Saige is evolving. So I'm very excited about that. Next slide. We have got something super exciting. We've evolved. We have Books and Booze, and very much love doing it. I think we did it more for me and you, you know what I mean? Which is fine, but we realized how much of a voice that was for Saige in general. So we've evolved it. It's Saige Unplugged. It's still Leilani and I after hours. We still enjoy a great discussion over a drink together. But you'll see how it's adjusting a little. I'm excited for future episodes that we're planning out now. But a lot of what we referenced in today's presentation are books that she and I have taken, and we first were students of, and now we're extracting some of that really juicy information. We're just wanting to share it with you to help you grow. But we do post new episodes every Friday at 5 p.m. They are not live yet, but please keep an eye on, subscribe and hit that little bell button, and you'll see when we post the new ones each Friday at 5 p.m. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being part of our tribe, whatever its name is, Business Growth Community Tribe. We'll come up with it, and looking forward to it. And we will see you guys. Next one will be in another 2 weeks. I know we're still on that cadence until we hit the holiday time. So perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Guys. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Bye.